Dr. BJ Palmer, who was a developer of chiropractic, has a
Yeah.
great quote that a lot of chiropractors have. We keep it on the wall
Hmm.
on the office, and he
Sure.
says, "You never know how far-reaching something you say, think, or do today will affect the lives of millions tomorrow." Morning,
Morning. How you doing?
doing great.
Man, I had sent the confirmation to the wrong email. I was like, what's going on? And then I was like, oh man, I sent it to the wrong email. And I seen you email me. I was like, yeah, I did. So I was trying to, I was trying to get all that together. So yeah, my apologies for that.
We're here now.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So I'm already recording. We can go ahead and get started.
Cool. Let's do it.
All right. So floor is yours. We're gonna go ahead and you introduce yourself and what you do.
Okay. Jump in.
Yep, go ahead.
All right. Morning. I'm Dr. Kyle Hulsebus. I am a third generation chiropractor. I um, st- very much a storyteller. I speak and tell stories about health and human potential, and everywhere we can possibly go. I'm still in active practice. I'm also very much, if you can see the video, an avid reader of many
Yeah,
many different things.
yeah.
And I work with in my whole family, and I've been speaking for several years internationally. I've written quite a bit and have created a whole health series also called the 40 over 40 for health and longevity after 40 years of age.
So what's the message to that? So you talk about, 40 over 40. What's particularly your message in this conversation?
In the 40 over 40, one of the biggest things that I'm looking at, the little subtitle I give to it, is this 40 ways of mastering or improving health and longevity after 40 years of age. And
Mhm.
the main message I'm getting out of that is there's 40 little tips, little tricks. I don't really call them hacks. They're probably not even wise to call them tricks. It's more 40 things you could start to add to your life every day in just small, small little quantities that can help you start to figure out a little bit more about purpose and these ideas of health and longevity. Because the main thing I look at, Darrell, is health. People look at health as sort of, in order to get there, that we're lacking something and that we need to get this stuff from the outside. And the whole point of this is more that, coming from chiropractic, health is an internal state, and you're in health all the time, even if we don't recognize it. It's more, these are the little things that you can do to just get yourself out of that headspace that you've been in and start to look at things through different eyes. And I try to span the whole spectrum of what health could be, not just physical.
Hmm. That's interesting. So do you see this like when it comes to 40 over 40, do you see like what have you experienced or seen that, people that loses direction
Right.
after they turn 40?
Well,
So
that's
that's what you
yeah,
experience, right?
yeah. I mean, one of the observations I've had is we don't really think about it, especially in our our teens and 20s. We don't think that we might live to be 80 or 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And we sort of have, in at least in the West, this social mindset that, while I'm going to work and do all this stuff until this point, whether that's 55 or 65, and then I'm supposed to retire and, I don't know, take up golf or bowling. And
Yeah.
you see what,
Yeah.
and then I mean, in my clinical practice, I have people that regularly are out doing all sorts of things. They're in their 80s, their 90s, they're over 100 years old. And the biggest reason it's around 40 is, personal experience, being in my
Mm-hmm.
40s.
Yeah.
But when I really started to explore and study that a little bit, we found that a lot of people going after trying to master their health, or at least start to get control of their physical health and well-being, they tend to be, when they come into my office for long-term care to
Mm-hmm.
really change something, they tend to be more in their 40s, in early 50s when they're doing that. And then I started to look, and I go, we tend to have a lot of By the time we hit 40, we probably tend to have more of a job stability. We sort of know where we want to be in our employment, or if we've started off on our own little projects, maybe
Mhm.
gotten up to where we're not entry level anymore, or living,
Right.
just paycheck to paycheck. And even going with that financially, we're not scrambling to pay bills every week.
Yeah.
And we've got a great deal of learning. The great quote I found when I was studying it was from Carl Jung, the psychologist, who
Mhm.
said life really does begin at 40. Everything leading up to that is just research. And you start to look back, you go, that's true. But I get a lot of people that get to 40 and they're kind of like, well, I've got this. I've got this little bit of success here. I've got this here. If you started young, your kids are probably starting to leave the house, we hope,
Yep.
when you're 40ish. Or if you're my younger brother who just turned 40 and just had his first kid, you're just starting that adventure.
Hmm.
And then in your maybe marital or spousal relationship or partnership, you've probably found that you either have great stability there, or that may be the type of time of life where you start to say, I'm going to go look for different long-term stability.
Mm.
I've seen it go multiple ways. And then our social groups, we tend to have sort of solidified. We know who our friends are, and the things that we're members of. And then we tend to have a little more stability at that point around sort of our spiritual direction and what we want to do. But a lot of people get in and go, well, I did everything I'm supposed to do to this point. Now what do I do? And you start to look ahead all of a sudden that, boy, my kids are gone and I'm going to do this and I've still got all this work to do. And people tell me they're going to retire. And my favorite question to ask is, then what are you going to do? And they go, well,
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep.
And I go, well, you're wise to know, because your brain is sort of designed to keep you healthy and functioning toward a purpose. And if you don't have a purpose, it'll start to let it go.
That's interesting you say that because this may not have nothing to do with anything, but what I've noticed, like, and I'm pretty sure if you noticed it too, and going outside the spectrum, we see uh athletes, professional athletes that work hard, they, get into their sport and that's all they do. They spend their whole entire career playing sports.
Right.
And boom, once retirement hits, they have absolutely no direction.
Right.
None. And it's like they don't know what to do. Now there's maybe like, I'm just gonna throw a number out there for sakes, maybe 5% of athletes that literally started during their careers. They're either get into accounting or they get into something else, anything outside of their career. And then you got the rest of the 90% that they've been too focused on their careers and they don't know what to do afterwards now. They're, scrabbling. And then that's when the biggest thing hits depression, you
Yep.
know, that anxiety hits in. And my thought process with you is like, why so many men are outwardly successful but internally disconnected?
Well, and especially looking at men, the
Mhm.
you know, I I sort of observe, maybe you observe the same thing.
I'm
There's
pretty
almost
sure
a
I have.
societal sort
Yeah.
of expectation of, this is what a man is and this is what
Hmm.
a man does.
Right.
And the reality is there is no real box for it.
Mhm.
It's certainly our physiology is going to dictate certain things. But I've had, I've met such a wide variety of individuals. The ones that just kind of say no. I gave a talk not too long ago on leadership and vulnerability, and I had this interesting. It was one of those things you kind of talk your way through, and I realized, I went, oh, that's interesting. If we look at, like, say, a pack of canines,
Yeah.
whether dogs or wolves or however we want to go.
Hmm.
The one thing you see when they talk about alphas and betas and all that,
Yeah.
the alpha, the leader of the pack, all the others bare their throats and bellies and make themselves fully vulnerable to the leader. And I think the one thing we don't see is the leader didn't start there. The leader had to be completely vulnerable first in order to get there. And it, when you observe in an animal kingdom like that, that's we could call a little less evolved cerebrally,
Hmm.
the leader then works to constantly defend that leadership over time. But when I look at like business or just family,
Hmm.
the strongest leaders I've seen are the ones that aren't worried about appearing vulnerable.
Right.
They've been able to take those hits and they go, yeah, this is who I am. Yeah, I'm not perfect.
Hmm.
I don't have this. However, what I do have is I have very much sort of a conviction in a direction, and maybe the wrong direction. I'm able to admit when I've gone the wrong way, and let's regroup and see how we can continue to go. And suddenly you look, you go, wow, that's a strong leader. That's somebody I would like to follow behind and learn from in order to get my own leadership. But the strongest ones tend to be the ones that have shown vulnerability. But we have sort of the societal expectation of no, we must be iron. We can never show any of these things. And
Hmm.
so instead of sort of coming right out and just saying, you know what, I'm not quite certain where to go,
Right.
we sit back and go, no, 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 no. Of course, I'm not ready to tell anybody yet.
Yep.
Right.
That's that's where that usually stands too. And with you, have have you ever gotten to it in like before then, like back then? Did you ever get to a point where that you felt lost or you felt disconnected, disengaged,
Oh
and
yeah.
you didn't know where you needed to go? Have you ever been through that?
Oh yeah. There's no doubt. I don't think there's any individual man or woman that hasn't gone through that at some point.
Yeah.
I have this fun
Yeah.
time when kids come into my office and I go, so what are you going to do when you grow up? And they look at me and they go, ah, and I go, yeah, I was there too, kid.
Yeah, like I've yeah, like I have kind of gotten to that point myself, like graduated high school and I don't
Now
know what
what?
I'm gonna do. I don't know what to do. And like I didn't even prepare the way I wanted to. I just, just thought, okay, well, I graduated high school. What do I want to do? Well, I go to college. So I go to community college. Where you gonna study? I don't know. I
General
guess
education.
yeah, exactly what I did too. Literally did general education. I was like, I guess I'll just go ahead and do general education, man. I really don't have a purpose.
Right.
And now with me being 38 and I'm happy at a point where like I've been able to find a calling, find a, purpose in what I do. But before that, it was just like depression, just like I wish I just had to figure this out after I graduated high school. Like because it's so frustrating. Like you can go out rather if you're going to work or you're walking or you're doing something and you see all these people that you feel like or me I would feel like that they got it together and I'm sitting here like I ain't got nothing like how did they figure it out like how in the world did they were able to get to where they got to get to and I'm just sitting here stuck like mm, why
Right.
me, you know what I mean? It's a hard thing to literally deal with. And this is why these conversations really have to amp up because,
Right.
dude, I've never seen so many suicides in men. I've never seen, how suppressed men can be. You know, we've seen it all. And it's surprising. And the numbers are not going down either. And the thing that I have noticed within a circle of people, rather if it's big or small, that when they're actually lost, that's when all of the, you know, thoughts of suicide hits.
Right.
So, in your opinion, just in your opinion, and you may not have all the answers, but just in your opinion, why do you believe that men die younger than women?
Well, just from a, when we look at the number standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
the reason being is we probably wear ourselves out a little bit quicker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Because us men, we're taught to suppress all of our thoughts. Like if we're struggling financially, we really can't speak on it because we was taught to, go ahead and deal with it, hold it in, and you continue to be a man without addressing
Right.
these issues.
And don't let anybody know.
Exactly. And that is the bigger problem because we can go and actually speak to get help or whatever, but that's even harder because that's when we turn weak. We be weak and we're like, you actually went to a psychologist or you actually went to go get help. That's what weak men do. It's That's not the whole gist of
Right.
why we do this, right? Because women, not knocking women or anything, but they can actually go and seek these problems, and it's empowering. It's like motivation. It's like, oh, I want to be like that. I want to be able to speak on these things. But when a man decides they want to do it, it's like
Don't let
you need to
anybody
man
know.
up. Exactly. You just got to man up and just do this,
Yeah.
man. You just got to do it.
Well, that's what I meant with like leaders being vulnerable. Is there's
Yeah.
leaders that can say, absolutely. I have coaches that I work with.
Mm-hmm.
There's mentors that I've studied under. There's people that
Mm-hmm.
certainly people that I just sometimes you got to sit down. You got to go, all right, this is all the crap I got on my chest, and I got to get it off somewhere. And I need somebody to give me some ideas because my brain is hit here, and I can't keep going. And then people come in, and I've gotten through that because I have to deal with people that have a multitude of not just physical problems, but problems in their life that are adding to it. And you got to be able to recognize it in that position where I can look and I can go, I mean, you come in, if you seem like you have a recurrent ear problem in my office, I'm finally going to look at you and go, Darrell, what the hell's going on in your life? Like everything is
Yep.
going the way it's supposed to physically. What are you doing that keeps braining this on? And I've had people go, "What do you mean?" I go, "You're doing something in life. You may not want to tell me. That's fine." But I found, even speaking of that, you don't even want to admit to yourself sometimes. That's the usually the first lie that we want to tell ourselves is, they talk about fake it till you make it, and I go, but and that's all well and good,
Yeah. Yeah.
but not all the time.
But it never, and then that it'll never get you anywhere at that point either. And that's
Exactly.
why you stay stuck. And if you continue to stay stuck, then that's how these bigger issues just come in, and we're just circling around trying to figure out, hey, how am I going to, you know, get this solved?
Right.
Because I know, like me personally, I have done so much reckless things, like
Uh-huh.
literally eating mainly. That's the main thing. And this is how I am a type 2 diabetic because
Okay.
I was reckless, just reckless. Like, I literally just eat any and everything. And at first, I didn't want to admit that these were problems that I was having. Like, I could be so tired, all I want to do is just stay in bed. I don't want to get up. And I don't want to do none of that. And finally, last year, that's when I got up and I was like, okay, let me make this appointment because I shouldn't be feeling this tired. I shouldn't be, you know, feeling the way that I'm feeling like crap. And when I went in there, I had other problems too um that I just said enough was enough. So I went into the doctor's office and we talked about some things and drew blood and maybe no more than about an hour later, that's when I learned that I was a type 2 diabetic. And a doctor ended up calling me maybe a couple hours later. No, the next day he ended up calling me and he told me, he was like, yeah, man, yeah, you have type 2 diabetes. And the most important thing that I need you to do is lose weight. That is by far the most important thing. Lose weight. And that's when I had to make that decision. But I was feeling that relief because I had next steps, what I
Right.
wanted to do, what I needed to do. And that's when I actually just changed my eating habits. And when I did all that, now I don't go back until September, but I'll find out in the long run how I'm feeling. But being able to go to somebody, whether it's the doctor or friend or whoever, to share, what's going on with you and not be able to get dismissed by it can be one hell of a relief because you're not wrong, you're not weak, and you need understanding. And that's where, I had to literally make that change. And I feel pretty good. Like, I can't even lie about where I stand. Like, yeah, I still get tired, getting
Sure.
up early in the morning. And, that's part of the natural beast of getting up early in the morning and going to work and stuff like that. But I feel great. Like, I can't even complain about where my body is sitting at this point right now because I feel great because I let that all out. I, expressed problems. They didn't dismiss me like, oh, well, maybe, you're just overreacting.
Right.
And that's where all of, these thoughts just start coming in, man. And that's why I felt so relieved when that happens. And now with me just finding a purpose and actually doing this and just talking about it, like that gives me even more relief because being heard, being understood, and literally just pushing everything out of your chest and just expressing how you feel about something is the bigger like
Mm.
monkey off your back or weight off your back or whatever. And yeah, man, I can't even complain about where I stand right now, how I'm feeling, because I feel great, right? I feel great. And this is why I tend to do this. This
And
is important,
and you did
right?
it before you were 40. Look at you.
There you go. And trust me, look, I still
I
got
know.
more work to do, you
Oh,
know?
you know what? It's yeah, I've quoted this multiple times.
Mhm.
I'm a fan of the author Brandon Sanderson, and
Sure.
I get it not just from him but from many other places. But
Mhm.
he's got his in his Stormlight Archive books, he's got the Knights Radiant. Part of their motto is journey before destination because we
Mhm.
know the destination. So we're gonna sit there on that journey, and the journey is just you keep journeying right up until the end.
And
So
that's important.
if you stop, if you say, "Well, I finally succeeded," in Spanish, the word for success is éxito, which comes from the Latin for to exit, to leave, to be done, to go out of. So if you said, "Well, I'm 40, I succeeded," well, that tends to be where your brain goes, "Okay, we're done."
And that's the truth. It's not. You're not
And
done. You
so that's that whole I even put in there. I go, don't worry about success. Worry about
Mhm.
saying, all right, I set objectives. Let's work toward the
Mhm.
objective.
Mhm.
Yeah. If you're focused on it must be this way to get there, and we lose sight of, oh, there's all this wild panoply of different ways to do it. Because I know many type 2 diabetics, and they go down all sorts of different paths they found. I mean, losing weight's certainly a big piece for a lot, but I have people that pretty skinny that ended up in that position, and they go, hey,
Exactly. Exactly.
we've got a different journey.
Yes.
um, and the internet's not always the best place to go explore either. but even one of the big things you got on that, like you're telling me all this, and
Hmm.
I'm saying, yeah, it sounds like you were trying to find your direction, and you were doing just
Hmm.
different stuff in order to get there, and all of a sudden you had enough pain
Hmm.
where you finally said, I just can't take it anymore. I'm just, I'm this is not, either your brain said, hey, Darrell, this is our last chance, let's go.
Hmm.
Or you just kind of said, all right, I might have 50 years left. I better get doing something here. And you finally had that pain, and you went in, and granted, the doctor could have said it's going to be a lot more painful to go this way, and you might have said, well, guess I'm going to redact, go
Hmm.
back to where I was. And there's a lot of different ways to look at it, but you kind of got up, and it sounds like to me, and this is the question I sort of tell people to ask is, what you said, how can I utilize this for others? How can
Right.
I sort of use who I am as service? And you probably weren't ready at 18. You didn't have a story to tell, or you did, but you didn't realize the significance of it.
Hmm.
I was that way, and people
Yes.
tell me now, they go, tell your story, and I go, well, there's nothing. My story's boring, and I tell them, people are like, that was great, and our story is usually boring to us. But it's, one of the things that, and not only that, it was a small thing you've done, isn't it? I mean, we could talk
Hmm.
about that. Yeah, I mean, it's a podcast, and we got this
Yeah.
message, but
Yeah.
and it's not knocking you, but there's not 8 billion people listening to us every day.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
But
But it's
it's
getting
little
somewhere.
things. It's little
Yeah.
things. I create 40 ways. This is not, it's not a course. It's not, boy, do these things in order. It's not form the habit. It's, here's 40 things you probably haven't thought of, and they're small and they're simple. Go try them out, see which ones work for you. And
Yeah.
one of them you might latch onto and go, shit, I never considered looking at the world that way.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's
Or the
Mhm.
scariest tip I give everybody is turn off your phone completely, power
Yes.
it down, put it on
Yes.
the shelf, walk away. And I in this day and age, that seems to be the scary. 20 years ago, it would have been like, all right,
Okay.
but but even little, but then they have other little weird things, that you were kind of getting where you're paying attention to the signals your body gave you, and yeah,
Hmm.
am I going to give tips to say, yeah, would it be wise for you to try walking, to try yoga, to maybe dance, to work on nutrition and exercise, to
Hmm.
do that? But at the same time, I say, why don't you do something creative every day?
Right.
Who cares if it's scribbling with crayon on paper in your 40s
Exactly.
or
Yeah.
60s? Go find a kid to have fun with, and then you'll fit in. But
Exactly.
you know, I get
Yes.
I sat down with a 4-year-old yesterday in my office, and I
Hmm.
said, "Dude, what are we watching?" And he looked up at me and he goes, "Don't you know this?" And I go, "No, I'm pretty ignorant." And so we watched dinosaur trucks. I don't know. It was very interesting, and I was like, "Wow!" And he was
Wow.
just into it, and he's like, "Here," and he just pulled. You should watch. So I'm like, "All right." So I hung on. I had 3 minutes to between patients, so I sat and I watched truck like dinosaurs and just kind of let myself get out of my adult self for a few minutes. And then I went, all right, great. And I get up. Now I'm focused on taking care of people again.
Yeah.
And I've completely changed,
Yeah.
my paradigm a little bit.
And and that's funny because we can sit here all day and literally talk about something. We can literally, when you said, "Hey, why don't you turn off your phone and just put it on the shelf and just walk away?" Like when you literally say that, back in our day, we really didn't have phones like that, right? So,
No, you couldn't. You
you
discorded. You had to leave it in the house or it
yeah,
wouldn't have
so
a signal.
exactly. So it's like, hey, if we actually go and we put the phones away, big deal. We had our communication was, going over people's houses and or going to the park or, just hanging out on the doorstep and just, having conversations. It wasn't glued to the phones. That's how we were back in the day. And that's how, socially, that's how we, tend to grow.
Right.
But we got these phones,
Interacting.
you know, and that's when everything changes. Then you got people that can literally be creative. Like I've seen videos where
Oh yeah.
where people can this one got my attention. How people can just grab a glob of paint and just throw it on the paper or the board or whatever, and just start painting. Alien paintbrush. I'm like, what? I didn't never know that was such a thing. I never knew that. They could just take a thing of paint and just throw it, and just start painting with their finger, and it amazed me. Now,
Well, I've
another,
seen, but given that, and then given a show like America's Got Talent, right?
yeah,
You start, and I'm seeing more and more. I love watching that. I usually only
mm-hmm.
watch the wins, but they because they're the inspiring ones. I'm not there to
Yes,
watch
yes.
a lot of that. But the but I've found, over years of just kind of sitting down and watching it and interacting with that.
Mhm.
The thing I've observed is I think there's a lot of people that sat back and go, "Holy crap, that is a talent. I can go do that." And because I've seen some
Mhm.
people out there shaking, and
Yes.
and then suddenly they get sort of verified by the crowd as like, "This is amazing," and they're like,
Yeah.
"Wow, I didn't ever think, this would ever amount to anything." And you can see that in their eyes, and then you start to see people on the internet doing stuff, and the importance I find in that is don't compare you to them.
Exactly.
When I teach on principles, I go, don't worry about what they're, I don't have to have the podcast like Darrell Watts has. It's more that I can go, oh, look, he's spreading his message around. How can I do that in
Mhm.
my form, my way? I would love
Exactly.
to do
Mhm.
that, but I don't have to be Darrell. I don't have to come up with this creative, crazy thing to do. It's more like, where do I have my own talent inside? Where can I showcase that? And it's like, you talk about, because certainly I have people that run businesses on phones. You can't shut your phone off. It's become a very useful
Right.
tool.
Oh yeah,
But
for sure.
but a great example I have is there's a young man that I've known him his entire life, actually.
Mhm.
Been adjusting his spine, but he came in. He took his mom's iPhone one day and just sort of taught himself how to do stop motion animation with his Legos, and
Really?
he's really good. He knows how to make,
Wow.
little, the little piece. It's not like from here to here to here. He knows how to gradually make them look like they're moving. And he took his Jurassic Park ones and he creates these little videos and he brings them in and shows me. I go, dude, you're great. And then I showed him a little free app they could do on an iPad and add sound, and he does his own sound effects with his brother. And now they're making their own little backyard films, and he's just kind of running with it. And they're silly and they're goofy, but I look and I go, there's these little hints of genius, and he's in the type of family where, they're not consuming lots of media, just enough to where he's just kind of running with it, and he's been able, they don't have access to a lot of electronics and stuff. It's more of a
Right.
homeschool family and that, but just
Mhm.
enough where they're like, yeah, you want to be able to utilize it. And he's taking it without having the distractions of all this social media and everything. He's just sort of focused on, boy, I would love to tell stories this way.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and I see people doing that. And
Yeah.
when I watch like James Cameron and I watch Spielberg and that's what they were doing when they were kids. They were like, ooh, how could we tell little stories like this? And they basically just kind of ignored the distractions in the world and ran. And I think when we get to our 40s and older, we've built up all this noise. And so
Yeah.
when we sit down to say, what is my purpose? Well, I can't do that because of this, or I can't because of this, or I can't because of this. And or we compare ourselves and go, well, but they're special. They're different than me. And I go, no, they're
Absolutely.
all people.
Yes. Yes. And that's a good point because what's so sad about that at the same time is that you got people younger than 40 trying to do this compare on social media.
Right.
The only way they doing this is to get validation, to get some kind of attention or something. And them being under 40 and they seeing something, like they actually have a set that they want to do something as they get older. But then social media came in, and that's when they start, you know, drowning themselves in social media. They see these videos and they're looking at this. And like you said, they get distracted and they're trying to figure out now, like, man, now you replicate exactly what they're doing. And you're not taking the creative pieces in your mind to do, what you want to do. It's like me and you. You brought up the good example of the podcast. Like
Right.
you try to find a creative way to do yours. I find a creative way to do mine. It's like it's not even a replica. Like we're trying to bring out the same message, but in different ways.
Exactly.
Just in different ways. And these people that are younger, I don't want to say they're in trouble, but it could be an issue. It could be a problem. Like when they consume all of that, they consume it and they see it. They're not really inspired by it. They just want to copy it. And that's what kind of hurts
Right.
because you could get to 40, you could hit 40 years old and not know what to do. Just sit down and you're depressed and you don't know what to do. But then you can also get to 40 and you could be like, I know exactly what I want to do. I spent, my whole entire life doing this, but I just need something to, either back me up financially or I just need something to just back me up, period, just to keep me, active, you know. And this is where, you know, how we're attuned to back in our time, you know, no social media, no problem. We're just gonna go out there and play in the sand. We're gonna draw in the sand or something, or we're gonna do something creative in our own little way. If we're gonna go on the monkey bars, we're gonna be creative on the monkey bars. We didn't
Right.
have social media to do all that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's a good point, and that that kind of just drug my attention to how teenagers and people that are under 40 can also literally hit depression in the same way as people that are over 40, but it's in a different
Oh, definitely.
aspect.
Oh, yeah.
Social media for the younger, older people, it's just direction,
Oh, well, the
you
older
know?
people, I see the social media hit them too because they live on
Yeah,
it.
it do.
And because they're
Yes,
saying,
it
"Oh, but
do.
he's got it so together," and I go, "No." And I mean, here's a great example.
Hmm.
Guy, I call him a good, a good acquaintance rather than a real close
Yeah,
friend. But
sure.
was in one of his member groups for a while, and we chatted quite a bit.
Mhm.
And he got on the whole sales thing. He had a he had a great business. He was doing good construction and made beautiful homes. And he got into the thought leader part where he's like, I want other people to be able to, take a hold of their dreams and goals and do all that. And
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
and the only criticism I really give looking back at it is because I just I loved him, but I wasn't really inspired to keep working with him because
sure.
he always kind of let it like I'm the leader, and I go, well, I don't see you as my leader. I see you as somebody that I would certainly bounce ideas off of and keep going. And I learned a lot in that aspect working through that piece. But
Hmm.
he always seemed to he always showed all the great stuff going on. And then I knew his fiance at the time, and I
Yeah.
watched the big extravagant wedding. They showed all the photos and that, and then I remember asking. I said, "So how you guys doing after the wedding?" And he goes, "Well, actually, we annulled it because after the wedding, we kind of realized we didn't like being together." And I went, "But you didn't see that part. It was just more of a."
Right.
This was going on, and then he had the next great relationship in that,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden one day, just 2 years ago, I remember an email came out on the email list, and it was from his daughter, and she goes, "I just want everybody to know that my father committed suicide, and he was in his 50s."
Oh my goodness.
And I looked at, and it was real shocking, and I go,
Yeah.
wow, he was one of the last people I would have expected to hear that from. And she wanted to be candid. She goes, I know a lot of people looked, and I don't think they realized because you don't see it. He
Right.
he showed this face to the world, but he was always probably kind of struggling. Like he was always chasing success, and I
Yeah.
my observation, and somewhere he just, especially when you're trying to teach people to it all the time, and then you may feel and observe in your own life that I'm not meeting the fantasy standard I set for myself. And I can't, either A, I can't bother to show my face anymore, or everybody's probably going to be better off without me being around. I mean, there's so many different, who knows? Everybody's probably got their own reason for going through it. But I sort of observed where I go, somewhere he kind of always, that was one reason I think I didn't stick with him, was
Mm-hmm.
everything he always kind of said was, you need to have a bigger fantasy, you need to have a bigger get rich quick type thing. And I just go, I just, I'm not comfortable going down there. I mean, it was, you got to do the
Yeah.
Bitcoin. You got to start just borrowing money from banks and flipping houses. And I was just like,
Mhm.
I can't do it. I've got,
I agree.
I'm not, and I know people that do well with that, but the ones
Mm.
I know do really well with that, they're not going, you know, grabbing millions of dollars from other places and going, boy, I hope I can pay that off one day.
Man.
So and I don't know his specific circumstances, but it was a great example for me because I was like, wow, 54, and he felt there was no more direction or purpose for continuing. And that's really it. Either because of the standard we created out there that we couldn't live up to, or the standard that we
Mhm.
perceived out there that we didn't seem to be able to live up to. Who knows what it was. But my observation is sort of that fantasy that we've created, and then we show everybody that we're
Mhm.
doing great.
Yeah,
There are no downsides to your
absolutely.
life.
Yeah,
And I'll sit down and tell everybody. I go, ha, you think I'm so good? Let me tell you.
that's
Uh,
it.
that's why I love reading biographies, because
Yeah.
I get the origin. In fact, it was kind of funny. Before the Oscars, the one year I had just read Will Smith's biography about a week earlier,
Hmm.
and I went,
Mm.
okay, he's pretty candid with showing his ups and downs in life. And then he
Yes,
went
he
on
is.
TV and showed his ups and downs in life pretty well.
Yes,
But
he did.
and so he you kind of look and you go, yeah, but I still admire his ability to tell stories and all that. And
Absolutely.
he knows where he's got to work on his own thing, and he's not afraid to show people that I'm on this journey.
No.
Yeah, I can make huge
Mhm.
mistakes.
And that's the thing. And it's funny that you say that because that's, you never know what
No,
people go through internally.
right.
Like people will show it, but then there's the ones, like you said, with your buddy of yours, like they'll chase success. They'll do it. They'll act like there's nothing wrong with them internally, but you never know what they're going through internally, rather if they're chasing success or not. Because it's funny, I had a I had a guest a couple of months back, and I asked him this question. I asked him, what would you say to anyone that is literally struggling in life? What would you say to them right now if you looked them dead in the face? And I'm gonna paraphrase what he said. And I think this was the best answer he had ever given from anybody that, you know, answered it. He said, nothing. Sit with him. Just sit with him. Have a conversation. You
Right.
know, ask if you need anything, you know. Just make them feel as comfortable as you can. And that was the best answer I've ever heard. Like, I've never
I
heard an
agree.
answer like that. I do too, because I never heard an answer that really would resonate with anybody. Hell, even myself. Like, I would have been like, if that was me in that situation, I just would have been like, hey man, you good? Just having a gradual conversation. But just to not say nothing and just sit with them and make them as comfortable as they can. That is the best answer I've ever heard.
And
And
don't
that
judge.
really, dude, yes. And that took me away. I was like, dude, that was the best answer I've ever heard. Because, like you said, you never know what people are going through internally. And when people actually express what they go through internally, you said it with Will Smith. He goes out there and do it. Yes, I've seen it firsthand too. So yeah, you go out there on TV, do some things and all of that. Yes. And some people will go out there and they're share how they're feeling about their marriage or their relationship or, with family or financially, anything.
Right.
They'll show it, but the biggest thing that we have to really look out for is the people that, is real good at hiding it. They're real good at hiding it. There's people out
Just
there that are good at hiding that.
just hold space
And
with them.
dude, like you can't get any worse than doing just that. You can actually turn a person around just sitting there and just, you know, having a, just having the time with them. You don't even have to like no judgment, no nothing. And I think that's the best thing ever. And
There's a
I've seen
great
that.
example of that.
Yeah,
That was just in
absolutely.
no, in a movie.
Hmm.
I watched it when I was traveling on the plane. It was up for a couple Oscars this year. It's called Train Dreams.
Oh, okay.
I'd read the book.
Hmm.
And it was a beautiful little movie. I mean, it's just about this guy going through life, not quite sure of his purpose. He's just kind of
Yeah.
living, ends up with,
Yeah.
meeting the lady he loves, building the cabin and doing, it's back in the 1920s or 30s. And there's a moment after he goes through, I think everybody would say, pretty awful tragedy of life. And
Yeah.
he's a very closed mouth, very quiet sort of hermit guy. And one of these guys from the town just comes in and he just, here, I brought you some food, and just makes a fire, and they just sit there. He doesn't say, do you want to talk about it? Do you want to do anything? He goes, hey, come on, let's get the gun. We'll go out and we'll hunt. That whole, yeah, everything you just said, that's the
Yes.
scene. That's like 7 minutes, and it's
Yes.
one of the most powerful scenes in the movie because he never says anything. He just says, come on, let me get you out of the pattern you've just formed, and let's get your body moving, and let's just chat. Let's just go out and do stuff, and you'll take care of your own thing. It's remove the interference. That's what we say in chiropractic.
Mm,
Let health and life
dude.
express.
Dude. Yes. And that is, and that's the best way to go. It's never been, it's you can say that there's never a right or wrong way to approach something, but then at the same time, it's like when you don't know what people are going through internally or emotionally or mentally, you know, it's really like the best way to you know approach it. I think that was phenomenal, and that's how you know a lot of these situations could really die down. Like no longer judging people, no longer, suppressing thoughts, none of that. If we actually literally did what some of these people would do, like just, you know, make them comfortable, have a little small little conversation, get them out of their, you know, tragedy of an element, then that's where things could get better.
Right.
And dude, I think that was good too. And I want to get you in this last question. I just want to
Okay.
ask, what's the one thing every man over 40 should start doing tomorrow?
Well, I'm going to tell you that should is a loaded word. Hey, you ever
Yeah,
listen to Tony? You ever listen to
yeah.
Tony Robbins?
Oh yeah,
He,
I've
he's
listened to quite a
he's
few of
got
his stuff. Yeah.
he's got that great thing. He goes, I should do this, I should do that, and then pretty soon we've been shoulding all over ourselves. And so I don't like my 40 over 40. These 40 tips.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a single thing in there you should do. These are 40 suggestions that, yeah, I've got them numbered because that's the order I kind of like to put them in and put them together in.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more a thing of figure out which ones. I tell everybody, try all of them, listen to all of it, and then look back and go, which ones resonated with me and which ones seem a little challenging to me, and maybe I'll play around with that, because usually the ones that challenge you a little bit are the ones that are a little wiser and a little more fun to try, because they're just going to get you out of the pattern that you've been in. But if I was going to say any
Mm-hmm.
one thing, I'll probably give two that would be wise for men over 40 to really do. Is I start off all my different talks really with, all right, everybody, take 3 deep belly breaths. Let your belly hang out. Doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Yeah.
Breathe into your belly. Let it all out. They call it grounding themselves. Remember, men are of the earth, and so
Yeah.
we want to get earthy and ground ourselves and just kind of stop where we are. And because we've got all this noise and we've got all this crap going on all the time around us, so I said, take these breaths, ground yourself a little bit, and then sit down and go. Here's the questions to ask: Where am I? Where have I been? And
Hmm.
where would I just absolutely love to go from here? And ask it that way. Where would I love to go from here?
Yeah.
And have those words. Not where would it be? Where should I go? Where could I? Where do they think it would be? I don't want to disappoint. No. If all this crap is taken out, what would you love to be doing? That's why you want to ground yourself first, and then sit down and go, okay,
Absolutely.
now what are the things that I can start that I already have, and that I can acquire in order to get there? And I've
Absolutely.
seen magnificent things come out of that,
Oh yeah. No doubt.
and small
No doubt.
things, small things.
Everything.
I've
That's
had some
everything too.
people
Small things.
they go, I'm right where I want to be, and I love what I'm doing, and I'm going to keep doing it. Great,
Yeah.
and
Just
it
like my
doesn't have to
dad.
be, yeah.
My
I
good. Good.
well, but it doesn't have to be world shaking. It's not. No, I'm now going to
Yeah.
go run for Senate, only because you would love to. But you might say, I love working at this job. I love working with these people. I love being able to train and inspire people within this factory. I'm in a big factory town, and that's inspiring and that's meaningful to me in my life and raising my kids. And then when I retire, my wife and I can do some traveling, and we're going to be able to play with the grandkids. And one day I hope to be laid down next to her
Yeah.
and with my parents. And I go, beautiful. That's beautiful. That's
Absolutely.
purpose.
Sweet. That's sweet. And that and that's how it was with my dad. Like my
Yeah.
dad worked for one job, and that was the local bus company. Did it for 47 years, retired last year. I want to say October. And he did it. He literally get up, work, come home, and that was his day. And he did it for 47 years. Now that he's retired, he decided that okay, since he's already married, he went on and making that slow transition to California.
Okay.
And he's having the time of his life. And I can't blame him. Like, you spent 47 years working for one company, and, you're not even, from what I've seen, I haven't detect anything. He's really having the time of his life. He, wants to go have a drink. He has a drink. He'll, sit back, watch TV. He's having a golly good time. It's like there's nothing there that indicates that he's really moving into the sides of depression or anything like that. At least I haven't detected, because to me, he's just having a golly good time, you
Yeah.
know,
He
and that's the most important thing.
probably had a plan in the back of his head that he just never told
Had
anybody.
to. Bingo. And he always told me this. Like when I was a kid, he always told me as I was getting older, he's like, look, the one main thing that you just got to understand about life is that you do what you got to do. You do you, period. Like you ain't got to tell everybody everything that you're doing. Like if you go to church and you decide one day you don't go to church, that's your business. That's you do you. Like you don't owe nobody an explanation for what you've done. You work, you come home, you, you know, continue to be the exact same person you were, but a better version of yourself tomorrow. That's all. You ain't got to tell everybody your plans. That don't matter. Like you building a life of your own. If you're not going to build a life of your own, if you're going to let people just come in and tell you this, and this,
You should, right?
exactly, exactly. And I have a 5-year old. Okay, I have a 5-year old, and my dad's like, you raise your daughter the way you want to raise her. Like, break the generational barriers. Break 'em.
Yeah.
You do you. Like, because I understand where he came from when I was a kid with him being a parent. I understand it 100% because what we did with him and to him probably wasn't the best thing. But yes, I understand now, me being a parent, because this is exactly what's happening to me. I looked at that situation. I said, damn, I did screw up a lot of things that I think that I shouldn't have done. And now, me being a dad, I see exactly what that man went through. And it was hell. All right. It was hell. And this is him. This is just him being forgiving. He's still, still being a dad at the end of the day. Because that's a permanent tag. It's
Yep.
a permanent tag. You can't get that, free pass. If your child is dead, then that's a whole different story. But when you're a dad now, that's a tag. That's a tag on me. It's a permanent tag. I have that. And I'm going to still continue to be the dad that I'm going to need to be, just like him. He'll tell me something.
Exactly.
So that's how that is, man. So yeah, I can't even fathom on how, life can just change on you so quickly and you be able to understand a lot of things. So
Well, one
yeah.
of the tips I was given, it just kind of struck me on what you were
Yeah.
saying. You know, when we say don't, don't judge yourself either. But
Exactly. Yeah.
but you talked about, just sharing space, sitting in silence.
Yeah.
What if you got
Absolutely.
nobody? So what if you got nobody around, right?
Oh yeah.
One of the things, and it's I think it's like day 14 or number 14 in my 40
Mhm.
is something I got from from a spiritual master, Rajinder Singh, and
Okay.
he teaches the light and sound meditation and the science of
Mhm.
meditation. It's called the science of spirituality.
Mhm.
And when I first met him years ago, and everybody's, well, in order to be spiritual, you want to meditate, and you're going to be able to open yourself to, the light and God and that. And I go, great. So I had the opportunity to chat with him and ask him a question. I said, Sant Gender, I understand meditation. I understand, different forms of prayer and that. And I go, but what's something that you think would be just beneficial to do on a regular
Mhm.
basis that I could also use to sort of find my own inner spirituality, and also to see if you're theological God, if you're atheological, then just that connection to the greater universe out there. And I knew he was taking it seriously because he got real quiet, and he sat and he contemplated real deep within for a couple minutes, just in silence there.
Yeah.
And then he looked me
Yeah.
right in the eye and he said, every day, sit in silence wherever you want to be and get real
Right.
quiet and just watch the perfection of the universe all around you all the time.
Yeah. And that's true.
Don't
That's
talk,
absolutely
don't
true.
meditate, don't do any. He said, just sit back and see how perfect all of it is. That's sitting in silence with yourself.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. Like a lot of and that's the thing. A lot of people don't do that either. Like,
Don't think about it.
yeah, you don't think about it because of,
You always have to have this
how
thought in
life
your head. Yeah.
hectic. Life could be so hectic. So it's like boom, everything is happening and you don't take a minute. You don't, reflect that way. So yeah, that's powerful. I like that. But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on, man. You threw out a lot of, wisdom and insights, man. You did.
Well,
So yeah,
you've got the personal life to bring your own out. So I
there you
appreciate the
go.
opportunity to sort of add, and we grow our wisdom exponentially together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole purpose, man. Just to come on and just share one message, do it together, man. And we do it in different ways.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
Dr. BJ Palmer, who was a developer of chiropractic, has a
yeah.
great quote that a lot of chiropractors have. We keep it on the wall
Hmm.
on the office, and he
Sure.
says, you never know how far-reaching something you say, think, or do today will affect the lives of millions tomorrow.
And that's how I felt
Little
when I
things,
do this. Yes,
little
that's how I
things.
felt when I do this. And it's like, man. I don't think I'm getting anywhere. So it's like, should I just keep on going and just do it anyway? And, you know, who will affect the next day? I've always felt that way. Always. I've always felt that way. And I'm just still doing it.
Yeah.
So that makes a difference. So that's a good quote. I like that. It's a
Yeah,
very good
it's
quote.
one of the best ones because he said one adjustment on one individual, one time on one segment can remove interference from
Hmm.
the spinal cord, and they'll express health differently, and therefore everybody that individual interacts with is going to have a different effect forever.
Wow.
So you get one message out to one
Wow.
listener one time, they think about the
Hmm.
world differently, and everybody they interact with, it's going to be different. They changed. You can't not do it.
That's deep. That's
That's
deep,
seeing
man.
that's the perfection of the universe for you.
Yes. Very, yes. That's so
Sit,
deep.
sit in silence today and think on that.
Yeah. That's a
And
good thought.
then look at the little girl and see that.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Dr. Kyle, man. I appreciate you coming on, man.
No, thanks for the
You love
opportunity.
it, man. Man, no problem, dude. No problem.